Hello and welcome everyone. In this day 9 of learning of topic 2 for recursive function structure, we are going to be looking at the general function structure, recursive function structure, and also the call stack or the memory visualization of how a recursive function works behind the scenes, right? So I'm going to be having to demonstrate a small example through a web browser to really show what happens behind the scenes when a recursive function is invoked, right? So firstly, we have understood that recursive functions are shorter to write and iterative, rather than to write an iterative code such as for loop or so. But we also need to keep in mind that loops, when we execute, they also are compiled as a recursive code, right? Or interpreter turns them into a recursive code as well, right? So, but one thing that recursive function helps us is it helps us simplify our way of thinking and also to implement it in a much easier format. Okay, so without much talking, we yesterday looked into how a factorial of a specific number can be built, can be solved using a recursion, right? So if return 1, else return, so here we have already identified this as the base case, right? So this as the base case, and the function which performs subtask like this is the recursive call, right? So these are some things that we have already identified, and we should know that uh, any recursive function will simplify the problem and should have a base case to not end up in an infinite loop. Those are few things that we need to always think about and then build our functions. And yeah, here the base case is when the number reaches 0, we return 1 as a base case, right? So I will just quickly go through an example where I've shown an example in the web browser to calculate factorial of 5. So let me click on auto run, and let me just show what exactly is happening here. Okay, so let me click on auto run. So first thing is factorial of 5, and it calls factorial of 4, factorial of 3, and it again splits into factorial of 1. Factorial of 1 returns 1, and factorial of 2 takes that 1 value, and similarly 5 takes 24 and it's completed. So finally the value is 120, right? So this is how we understand. So if I need to walk through steps, so factorial of 5 will be again split up into 4, where 4 again splits up into 3 as a sub problem, and it is recursively calling factorial of 1. In the next iteration, this factorial, since it is a base case, it evaluates to 1, which is a definite value. Now, since this is at the top of the stack where we see all of these function calls, this function call, which is executed at the end with the base case, returns a value of 1. So this carries forwards to the previous recursive call, which was factorial of 2, and 2 into n minus 1, which was 1, and this one was the base case which gives us the value 1, and we get a return value of 2 from this factorial of 2 function, and factorial of 3 takes in a return value of 2, which is part of the factorial of 2 return value. Now factorial of 3 has a return value of 6, so it would be 4 into 6 as we see here, and 24 is the return value here. And finally, for return value here is 5 into 24, which is 120, right? And we also could see the call stack. One of the things to understand in this one is, uh, we could see when we call a factorial of 5, we get certain functions like factorial of 5, which gets split into 4, and factorial of 3 and 2 and 1, right? So this at the top of the stack will be the one that will be executed. So in this stack, it will be like an implementation of last in first out, right? So we are going to look at all these stack related concepts later, but since we are having to execute our code in a Chrome browser, we could see that uh, it's interpreted, or the Chrome browser executes the code in a stack format where the functions are stacked this way. Like the last function, which was factorial of 1, gets executed with 1, and here 1 into 2, and here 3 into fact of 2, which is eventually 2 into 1, and similarly it is 4 into fact of 3, which would be 3 into 6, right? This would be 6, and finally this would be 24 into 5, right? So that's the way this was getting executed. So the last, even though we ask for factorial of 5, which gets executed at the end, the factorial of 5 recursively gets split into 4, 3, 2, and 1, which is the base case, and this one, which is called at the last, is the first one to execute based on the stack implementation of last in first out principle, right? So that is one important observation as well. Okay, so that being said, this is about it for this session. In the next session, we are going to be looking at some more examples with recursive recursion. Maybe we will take few examples, and later we will also understand the differences between recursion and iteration. That's about it. Hope you found this video helpful. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.